The phone buzzed in Dale Carpenter's hand just as the January wind cut across his porch. 9:47 on a Tuesday night. Monica, at book club, or so she'd said. He looked down at the screen. A selfie. His wife in a bar booth, laughing. A younger man's arms slung around her shoulders. The man was looking straight at the camera, straight at Dale, with a smile that said he knew exactly who'd be seeing this. Travis Henneman, the developer who'd been sniffing around county land deals. Dale's hands started shaking. The phone slipped from his grip, landed face up in the snow at his boots. The screen stayed lit for a moment, that smile glowing up at him in the darkness. 38 years of marriage, just sitting there in the snow. He didn't pick it up for a long time. Dale didn't sleep that night, just sat at the kitchen table with the phone between his hands, staring at that picture until his eyes burned. Monica came home at 11:30, humming, took off her coat like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just sent proof of her betrayal to her husband's phone. "You're up late," she said. Dale slid the phone across the table. She looked at it. Her face didn't change much, just a flicker of something, gone quick. Then the tears started. "Dale, it's not what you think." "What is it then? What is it then?" She sat down across from him, reached for his hand. He pulled back. "Travis is helping me with some financial planning," she said. Her voice broke just right. "For our future. With you forgetting things lately, I got scared about money. He's just a friend, that's all." "Forgetting things?" "You know." She touched his face, gentle. "Little things. Appointments. Where you put the truck keys. I've been worried." Dale stared at her. He hadn't forgotten anything. Not one damn thing. "That smile," he said. "That wasn't a friend's smile." He was drunk, being stupid. More tears. "Dale, I'm sorry it looked bad, but nothing happened. I swear. I'm scared about getting old, about money, about what happens if you—" She let it hang there. "If you lose your mind. If you can't take care of things anymore." "I'm 63, Dale said. "Not 90. I know. She was crying harder now. "I'm just being stupid, paranoid. Please don't be angry. I couldn't stand it if you were angry." She looked so small across that table. 38 years of marriage sitting between them like a weight. Dale wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to. "Don't see him again," he said finally. "I won't, I promise." She came around this table, put her arms around him. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." He let her hold him. But something felt wrong. Something in how quickly she'd had the explanation ready. How the tears had come right on time. The next 3 weeks, Monica was perfect. She cooked his favorite meals, brought him coffee when he was checking fence lines, came out to the barn and watched him work on the old tractor, asking questions like she cared about the answer. Sunday mornings at church, she'd hold his hand during the hymns. Tuesday nights, she'd fall asleep with her head on his shoulder while they watched television. Dale started thinking maybe he'd overreacted. Maybe that smile hadn't meant what he thought it meant. Maybe Monica really was just scared about their future, trying to plan ahead. Hell, at 63, wasn't that smart? He checked the back 40 on a Thursday morning in mid-February, same as he'd done every week for 40 years. Monica brought him coffee in a thermos, stayed to watch the sunrise with him. "I love this land," she said. "I know. Your father would be proud. How you've kept it." Dale looked at her. There was something in her voice he couldn't place. "You feeling okay?" he asked. "Fine. Just thinking about the future." She squeezed his hand. "We should talk more about that. Financial planning. What happens to all this when we're gone?" "It goes to Sarah. If she wants it." Monica's voice was careful. "She hasn't been here in 5 years, Dale. Might not want 200 acres to manage." "She'll want it." Monica didn't say anything else. Just smiled and kissed his cheek and headed back to the house. That night at dinner, her phone sat on the table between them. It buzzed. The screen lit up. Monica was at the stove. Dale could see the message preview from where he sat. Phase 2 ready. Tuesday morning? The sender. Travis. Dale's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. Monica came back with the pot roast, phone in her hand now. She glanced at the screen, typed something back, didn't try to hide it. "Sister needs help with something Tuesday," she said, setting down the food. I'll be gone most of the day." Dale nodded, couldn't speak. After she went to take a bath, he sat there looking at her phone on the table. She'd left it there. Just left it there like she didn't care if he looked. Or like she wanted him to. His hand reached across the table. Stopped. His father's voice in his head. A man doesn't snoop. But his father hadn't dealt with a text that said, Phase 2. Dale picked up the phone. No lock screen. Monica had never bothered with passwords. He scrolled up through the messages with Travis. His heart started pounding so hard he could hear it. 6 months of texts, maybe more. Getting Dale evaluated next week. Dr. Harrison knows what to say. Power of attorney, Should take 3-4 weeks once we have medical documentation. Assessor will lowball the property. My guy owes me. Old fool won't know what hit him. He trusts me completely. This will be easy. Dale's hands shook so bad he almost dropped the phone. He scrolled further. Pictures, not just the selfie, others. Travis and Monica in restaurants, in what looked like a hotel room. Discussion of nursing homes, move-in dates, their future together. No. The bathroom door opened. Water still running. Monica would be out in a minute. Dale put the phone back exactly where it was. Exactly. She came out in her robe, smiled at him. You okay? You look pale. Fine, Dale said. Just tired. Go on to bed. I'll clean up. He went. Lay there in the dark while she moved around the kitchen. When she finally came to bed, she curled up next to him like always. Put her head on his shoulder. Dale stared at the ceiling. Phase 2 ready. Tuesday morning. He had 4 days to figure out what the hell that meant. Dale didn't sleep. Just lay there beside Monica, listening to her breathe. Easy and steady, like she didn't have a care in the world. At 3 in the morning, he gave up. Pulled on his jeans and coat and went out to the driveway. Ice storm starting, the kind that coats everything in glass. Monica's car sat there in the dark. He tried the door, unlocked. The manila envelope was under the driver's seat, pushed way back. His fingers were so cold they barely worked, pulling it out. Pre-admission paperwork. Shady Oaks Assisted Living Memory Care Unit, his name filled in. Monica's signature where it said legal guardian. Medical justification section checked. Progressive cognitive decline. Unsafe to live independently. Assessment scheduled for March 1st. Bed reserved. Move-in date, March 15th. The papers were dated December 10th. 2 months ago, a month before the selfie. Before the confrontation in the kitchen. Before her tears and promises. This had always been the plan. Dale sat in the freezing car with the papers in his lap while ice coated the windshield. His breath came out in clouds. He couldn't feel his hands anymore. She wanted him gone, locked up, declared incompetent. And then what? The land had to be the land. 200 acres his father had cleared with a mule and determination. Worth over $1 million now, easy. He folded the papers, put them back exactly where they were. Went to the barn instead of the house. Hid them in his workshop, under a pile of old survey maps. When he came back inside, Monica was still sleeping, still peaceful. Tuesday morning came. I've got that doctor's appointment at 9, Monica said over breakfast. Remember your annual checkup? Dale didn't remember making any appointment. You scheduled that? Last month. Dr. Harrison. Just routine. She smiled. I'll drive you. Everything in him wanted to refuse. But if he refused, she'd know he knew. And he needed to know what phase 2 was. The drive to town was quiet. Monica hummed along with the radio. Dr. Harrison's office smelled like antiseptic and old magazines. The receptionist called his name after 10 minutes. Mrs. Carpenter, you can come back too, she said. That wasn't normal. The exam room was cold. Dr. Harrison came in with a clipboard and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Dale, good to see you out. How have you been feeling? Fine. Any concerns? Monica mentioned you've been having some memory issues. No. Dr. Harrison glanced at Monica. She gave him a look Dale couldn't read. Well, let's do a few quick tests, just standard cognitive screening. He pulled out a form. Can you tell me what year it is? 2024. And who's the president? Dale told him. Good, good. Now, I'm going to give you 3 words to remember. Apple, table, penny. Can you repeat those back? Apple, table, penny. Great. Now draw me a clock showing 3:15. Dale drew it perfectly. The questions kept coming, fast, oddly phrased. What day of the week was it? Count backward from 100 by sevens. Spell world backwards. He answered everything correctly, but Dr. Harrison kept writing, kept making notes. Any confusion? Getting lost? Forgetting where you've put things? No. Monica leaned forward. He forgets appointments sometimes. Last week he couldn't remember where he'd left his truck keys. Found them in the barn. That was a lie. All of it. And I've noticed him getting confused in the evenings, she added. Her voice was perfect. Concerned wife, scared for her husband. Sometimes he thinks it's morning when it's night. That's not true, Dale said. Harrison wrote something else. Memory issues can be hard to notice ourselves. That's why family input is so important. I'm not confused. Of course not. This is all just precautionary. Dr. Harrison set down his clipboard. I'd like to discuss some of these early concerns with your wife. Maybe some strategies for... I'll wait here, Dale said. They went to Harrison's office. Dale sat in the exam room for 15 minutes, staring at the anatomy poster on the wall. When Monica came back, her eyes were red, playing the worried wife to the end. In the truck, her phone buzzed. Dale glanced over. Travis. How'd it go? Monica typed back, right there in front of him. Perfect. Harrison will write the report we need. She wasn't even hiding it anymore. "Monica?" Dale said quietly. She looked at him. No tears now, just something cold in her eyes. "What?" "I saw the text last week. I know about Travis. I know about the nursing home papers." She didn't even blink. Just turned back to the road. "Then you know it's already done," she said. "Harrison's filing his report today. The assessment's scheduled. You can fight it if you want, but who's going to believe you?" She pulled into their driveway, put the truck in park. "I've been telling everyone for months. You're declining. The church ladies. Your friends at the feed store. Bill Martin at the attorney's office." Bill wouldn't. "Bill plays golf with Travis every Thursday." She smiled, almost gentle. "It's over, Dale. You can make this easy or hard, but either way, by spring, that land is mine." She got out of the truck, walked into the house like they'd just been discussing the weather. Dale sat there with the engine running, his hands on the steering wheel, white-knuckled. 38 years. She'd been planning this for months. Had turned his doctor against him, his lawyer, his friends. Had told everyone he was losing his mind. And she'd done it all while sleeping next to him, bringing him coffee, holding his hand at church. The phone in his pocket buzzed. Bill Martin, his attorney of 30 years, finally returning his call from last week. Dale answered. "Dale, I got your message." Bill's voice was careful, professional. "I think Monica's concerns have merit. Fighting this will only drain your resources and dignity. The facility she's chosen is very nice. You should consider—" Dale hung up. He sat in his own driveway, in the truck his father had taught him to drive, looking at the house his grandfather had built. And for the first time in 63 years, Dale Carpenter didn't know if he had the strength to fight. The sheriff's deputy showed up 3 days later. Dale was in the barn, greasing the tiller, when he heard the vehicle pull up. Tom Briggs, Travis's cousin. "Morning, Dale." Tom stood in the barn doorway, hat in his hands. Polite. "Got a call about a wellness check. Mind if I look around?" "What call?" "Your wife's concerned. Says you've been acting confused. Wanted us to make sure everything's safe." Dale set down the grease gun. "I'm fine. Sure, just doing my job." Tom walked through the barn anyway, looking, checking the equipment, the wiring, the kerosene heater, making notes on a little pad. "Your surveying gear," Tom said, pointing at the old Transit on the workbench. "You still use this old stuff?" "It works." Tom wrote something down, gave Dale a smile that wasn't quite friendly. "My cousin Travis mentioned you might need some help. Managing all this property at your age, it's a lot for one person." "I manage fine." "Of course you do." Tom put his hat back on. "You take care now, Dale. Don't hesitate to call if you need anything." After he left, Dale stood in the barn for a long time. The deputy's notepad had been visible for just a second when he'd turned. Dale had seen the words, "Isolated living situation, outdated equipment, subject defensive." They were building a file. Sunday morning, Dale went to church alone. Monica claimed a headache. He'd been going to First Methodist for 40 years. Knew everyone. They knew him. Or they used to. He walked into the fellowship hall for coffee hour. The conversation stopped. People looked up, then looked away fast, found reasons to be somewhere else. Betty Henderson, who'd known him since he was 20, gave him a tight smile and headed for the door. "Betty," he called. She paused. "Dale, good to see you. How's Jim's back?" "Better." And she was already moving. "I've got to run. Roast in the oven." It was 9:30 in the morning. At his usual table, the chairs were empty. 3 men who'd sat with him every Sunday for 15 years were across the room. When he looked over, they suddenly got real interested in their coffee. Dale heard the whispers. "Monica's so worried. Shame, really. Seemed so sharp. Age gets everyone, eventually." He left his coffee untouched, walked out. In the parking lot, Ruth Patterson was loading something into her car. She'd been his surveying partner 30 years back, before she'd taken the county records job. They'd worked dozens of properties together. "Ruth," he said. She looked up. Her face was hard to read. "Dale, can I talk to you a minute? I'm running late." She closed her trunk, didn't meet his eyes. "You take care." She drove off before he could say anything else. Dale stood in the parking lot alone. The church bells were ringing, people filing past him like he wasn't there. Monday morning, at the diner. 40 years, he'd had breakfast at the same table. 6:30, 2 eggs over easy wheat toast, black coffee. Sally, the waitress who'd served him since the Reagan administration, barely looked at him when she took his order. "Coffee? Please." She filled the cup and left. Didn't ask about the weather, didn't mention her grandson's baseball season. Just gone. The table where he usually sat with Ray Hollis and Pete Gardner was taken. By Ray and Pete. They'd moved to a different table. When Dale looked over, Ray suddenly remembered he needed more sugar. Dale ate his eggs alone. They tasted like nothing. At the feed store, old Mr. Peterson bagged up his order without the usual conversation. When Dale paid, Peterson said quietly, without looking up, "Heard Monica's real worried about you, Dale." Monica's lying. Peterson's jaw worked. He still didn't look up. "Maybe you should listen to her. She's trying to help." Dale left without another word. The blizzard hit Tuesday afternoon. By evening, the road was impassable. Phone lines went down. Power stayed on, but barely. Dale was alone. Monica had gone to her sister's the day before. Said she didn't feel safe. "You've been acting so strange, Dale. I need some space." 3 days he was snowed in. Not a single person called. Not one. He checked. The phone line was working fine. Just nobody checking if he was alive, if he had food, if he'd lost power and was freezing to death. Wednesday night, Dale sat at his kitchen table with the property deed in front of him. Father's survey transit on the mantel, catching light from the fire. He could sell. Call Travis tomorrow, accept whatever lowball offer came, take the money and leave. Start somewhere nobody knew him, somewhere nobody thought he was losing his mind. It would be easy, easier than fighting. Thursday afternoon, the snow finally stopped. Dale walked his property lines. 2 feet of snow, bitter cold, wind that cut through his coat like it wasn't there. He found the northwest corner marker, iron pin his father had set in 1947. Dale was 8 years old that day, watching his father work the transit, learning how to read the measurements. "Every pin is a promise," his father had said. "This land will be yours, then your children's. We mark it true so nobody can take it." Dale knelt in the snow, brushed away the white until he could see the pinhead. Still exactly where it should be. 77 years later, he pulled the county assessor's report from his coat pocket, the one that said his land was worth $400,000, the one that said owner cognitive decline, limiting property maintenance. He walked to the fence lines the report called deteriorating. Perfect. Every post solid. Checked the barn the report said had structural concerns. His grandfather had built it to last 200 years, still had 150 left in it. They documented lies, made them official. And everybody believed them because nobody wanted to think Monica would lie. Nobody wanted to think a wife would do this to her husband. Friday morning, Dale unlocked his workshop, pulled the tarp off his father's equipment. The old transit sat there under dust and time. He checked the mechanisms. Still perfect? If he surveyed the entire property fresh, every boundary, every pin, every angle, proved his precision to the inch. That was proof no forged assessment could deny. But he was 63. 200 acres in winter, days of work and brutal cold. His hands weren't as steady as they used to be. His back complained more. His knees hurt in the cold. Could his body still do what his mind knew was necessary? He found a note in his father's old toolbox. Written in pencil on the back of a survey form, dated 1973, defended our deed today against carpetbaggers who wanted to claim the creek boundary. They had fancy lawyers. I had measurements. Truth won. This land is your spine. Stand straight. Dad Dale folded the note, put it in his pocket, picked up the phone, called the feed store. "This is Dale Carpenter. I need surveying stakes, 24 and 300 feet of string line." Mr. Peterson was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Don't believe what they're saying, Dale. I remember your work. I'm the first person in a week who'd said anything kind." "Thank you," Dale said. He hung up, looked at his father's transit. Then he started making a list. Dale had the stakes spread across the kitchen table when someone knocked on the door. Late afternoon, the day after he'd called Peterson, he wasn't expecting anybody. Ruth Patterson stood on his porch with a casserole dish in one hand and a file folder 3 inches thick in the other. "Can I come in?" she asked. Dale stepped aside. Hadn't spoken to her since the church parking lot. Ruth set the casserole on the counter. Didn't say anything for a minute. Just looked at him with those sharp eyes that spent 40 years reading county records. "I've been cold to you," she said finally. "At church, around town, you noticed." "Hard not to." "Good." She opened the file folder, spread documents across his table, pushing the surveying stakes aside, because I needed everyone to think I believed Monica's story, including Monica. Dale stared at the papers. Property records, transfer documents, assessment reports. "6 weeks ago, I saw a title search on your land," Ruth said, "ran by Travis Henneman's office. That got my attention, so I started looking." She pulled out more papers, a timeline, handwritten. "Travis has done this before. 5 times in the last 3 years. Targets elderly landowners. Befriends a family member, usually a spouse or greedy kid. Creates a narrative about cognitive decline. Gets friendly doctors to write reports, friendly assessors to undervalue property, then moves in for this kill." "Jesus," Dale said. 3 victims lost everything. One died in a nursing home 6 months later. One killed himself." Ruth's voice was flat, professional, but her hands shook slightly. "My husband, He almost fell for something similar. Different man, same game. We fought it off, but it ate at him. He died angry. She looked at Dale straight on. I won't let it happen again. Not to you, not to anybody. Dale sat down hard. Why didn't you tell me? Because I needed to document everything first. Build the case. If I'd tipped my hand too early, they would have known someone was watching. Change tactics. She tapped the files. This is 6 weeks of research. Every property Travis has touched. Every doctor he plays golf with. Every assessor who owes him favors. Every forged signature. Every backdated document. Monica's texts are in here too. I had Sarah forward them to me. Sarah? Your daughter's on her way. I called her yesterday. Told her what her mother's doing. And she hasn't spoken to me in 5 years. I know. Monica called her 2 weeks ago. Offered her $100,000 to testify you're incompetent. Dale felt like he'd been punched. Sarah asked for time to think about it, Ruth continued. Monica thinks she's got her. But I reached out yesterday. Explained what I found. She's driving up from Nashville right now. Dale couldn't speak. Ruth pulled out one more document. My nephew Frank, he's an attorney in the Capitol. Specializes in elder fraud. Hates these cases with a passion. I called him this morning. He'll take your case pro bono if you want to fight. If I want to. Dale laughed, but it came out broken. Ruth, they've got doctors, lawyers, the sheriff. Half the damn town thinks I'm losing my mind. I know. How do I prove I'm not? Stand in court and say I'm fine while they waive medical reports? Ruth sat down across from him. Frank says evidence helps, but judges want to see competence demonstrated. Actions, not words. Can you do that? Dale thought about the surveying stakes on his table. The transit in the barn. I was going to survey my property, all of it. Prove every boundary marker, every pin, every measurement. Show them my mind's as sharp as it ever was. In this weather? My father did it and worse. Ruth studied him. You're 63, Dale. 200 acres. That's days of work in brutal cold. I know. You could die out there. I could die in a nursing home too. At least out there I'd die trying. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. Then we document every inch. Photographs, video, measurements, cross-checked with original surveys. Make it undeniable. We? You think I'm letting you do this alone? She stood up. I'll help with the documentation. Sarah can film on her phone. Frank can use it all in court. The hope in Dale's chest hurt worse than the despair had. When's the hearing? He asked. Monica's filing for emergency power of attorney, based on Dr. Harrison's report. Frank says we've got maybe 3 weeks to prepare. 3 weeks. Dale looked at his father's note, still in his pocket. This land is your spine. Stand straight. Then we start tomorrow, he said. Headlights in the driveway an hour later. A car Dale didn't recognize. Sarah got out. 41 now. He hadn't seen her since she'd stormed out after he'd refused to loan her money for her third divorce. Attorney. She stood in the driveway for a minute, just looking at the house. Then she walked up to the porch. Dale opened the door before she could knock. Hi, Dad. Sarah. They stood there awkward, 5 years of silence between them. Mom called me 2 weeks ago, Sarah said finally. Told me you were declining, getting confused, dangerous to live alone. She said if I testify to that, she'd give me $100,000. Take care of me after the divorce. Dale's throat was too tight to answer. I almost did it, Sarah said. I'm broke, bitter. Still angry you wouldn't help me back then. I thought... She stopped. I thought maybe you deserved it, for being so hard, so judgmental. Sarah, let me finish. She came up the porch steps. Ruth called yesterday, told me what Mom's really doing, showed me the pattern, the other victims. I didn't believe it at first. My own mother wouldn't. Her voice broke. But then I looked at the text Ruth sent, really looked, and I saw it. She was crying now. Mom lied about everything, about you forgetting things, about being confused. She's been planning this for months. And she tried to buy me, her own daughter. Well, you didn't take it, Dale said quietly. I almost did. That's what kills me. I was tempted. Sarah wiped her eyes, but I needed to see for myself first, so I came. Dale didn't know what to say. Ruth says you're surveying the property, Sarah said, proving your competence. I want to help. I want to document everything. Show the court you're... She looked at him. Show them you're still you. You don't have to. Yes, I do, because Mom lied to me about you for years. Made me think you were just this hard, unforgiving old man. And maybe you were hard sometimes. But you weren't a liar, and you weren't incompetent. She stepped closer. Can I come in? Dale opened the door wider. They started at dawn the next morning, February cold, the kind that burns your lungs. Snow still 2 feet deep in places. Dale showed Sarah how to use the surveying equipment, the same way his father had shown him. You measure twice, he said. Always twice. Then you check against the old surveys. Precision matters. Being close isn't good enough. And Sarah filmed while he worked, asked questions. Real questions, not pretend interest like Monica used to show. When did Grandpa teach you this? I was 8, worked every weekend until I was 20. And you remember all of it? Every inch. Dale found the first property pin, exactly where his father's 1947 survey said it would be. That's what they don't understand. This isn't memory. It's in my bones. They worked until dark. Then again, the next day, and the next. Sarah quizzed him on other things while they walked the property. Childhood memories, dates, events from 40 years ago, filmed his answers, every detail perfect. By the end of the week, they'd mapped the entire north section. Dale's survey matched his father's exactly. Measurements to the inch. Sunday evening, Sarah made dinner while Dale compiled the survey maps. Ruth stopped by with the legal paperwork. Frank reviewed everything, Ruth said. He'll take the case, but he needs you ready to testify. Explain your methodology. Demonstrate competence in court. I can do that. The hearing's March 15th, Ruth added, same day as the nursing home move-in date on Monica's papers. Sarah looked up from the stove. That's not a coincidence. No, Ruth said, it's not. Dale spread the fresh survey maps on the table next to his father's originals. Identical. Proof in ink and precision. Then we'll be ready, he said. Ruth pulled out one more document. There's something else. Frank's filing a counter motion. We're not just defending, we're going on offense. Fraud charges against Travis. Medical board complaint against Harrison. Everything. They'll fight back, Dale said. They already are. Travis has been calling around town, pressuring people. He knows we're building something. As if on cue, a vehicle pulled onto the road outside, stopped, sat there with headlights pointed at the house. 20 minutes it sat there, engine running. Then it drove away slow. Sarah looked scared. Should we call the sheriff? Sheriff's cousin is Travis's cousin, Dale said. No point. Ruth stood. I should go. Don't answer the door for anyone you don't know. And Dale, she paused. Be careful. Desperate people do desperate things. After she left, Sarah helped clean up dinner. They worked in silence for a while. Dad, she said finally, I'm sorry for the last 5 years. For believing the worst. For not being here. You're here now. I should have been here before. Dale dried the last plate. Looked at his daughter. Your mother's good at lying. She had me fooled for 38 years. Don't beat yourself up for 5. Sarah hugged him. First time in half a decade. We're going to win this, she said. Dale held his daughter and hoped to God she was right. Frank Rosen drove up from the Capitol on a Wednesday. Mid-40s, sharp suit, briefcase that'd seen some miles. He spread his files across Dale's kitchen table like he was preparing for war. Let's be clear about what we're facing, Frank said. Monica's filing for emergency power of attorney based on cognitive decline. If she wins, she controls everything. Your property, your finances, your medical decisions. She can institutionalize you immediately. Dale's coffee went cold in his hand. Our strategy is multi-pronged, Frank continued. Sarah testifies about your sharp memory and Monica's bribe attempt. Ruth testifies about Travis's pattern and the documentary evidence. And you, he looked at Dale, you demonstrate competence through your survey work. Show the judge what you can do. What if the judge is bought too? Sarah asked. Judge Halling isn't. Ruth pulled out another file. Patricia Halling, 72, her family homesteaded here in the 1890s, third-generation landowner. She understands what land means. Frank nodded. She's also got a reputation for hating fraud. If we can prove this is a scheme, not a mercy, she'll shut it down hard. And if we can't? Dale asked. Frank didn't sugarcoat it. Then you lose everything. The land, your freedom, your life as you know it. The kitchen went quiet except for the clock ticking on the wall. So we don't lose, Sarah said. Over the next week, something shifted in town. Small things. Easy to miss if you weren't watching. Dale went to the feed store. Mr. Peterson asked about the survey work. Actually asked, like he cared about the answer. Heard you've been out there every morning, Peterson said, bagging the chicken feed. Cold as it's been. That's dedication. Just doing what needs done. Peterson nodded slow. Your daddy was the same way. Precise. Didn't cut corners. He handed over the bag. Folks are starting to remember that. At the diner, Sally refilled Dale's coffee without being asked. Even managed a small smile. Good to see you, Dale. Just that. But it was more than he'd gotten in weeks. Sunday after church, Betty Henderson actually stopped to talk. Dale, I want to apologize for avoiding you. I heard things and I assumed. She looked embarrassed. Tom Peterson says you've been surveying your whole property in this weather. Says your work's perfect. Thank you, Betty. I should have known Monica was lying. She always was cold, wasn't she? Even at the best of times. The gossip was turning. Slow, but turning. Travis knew it too. Dale heard from Ruth that Travis had been spotted outside the county assessor's office arguing, loud enough that people noticed, unprofessional enough that people talked. Monica's calls to Sarah got more frequent, more desperate. She called 3 times today, Sarah told Dale over dinner. Says I'm betraying family, that you'll cut me out, that I'm throwing away $100,000 for nothing. What did you tell her? That she's the one who betrayed family. Then I hung up. Sarah's phone buzzed again. Monica. Sarah silenced it. Her texts are getting nasty, Sarah said, saying I'll regret this, that I'm choosing the wrong side. You don't have to testify, Dale said. I won't ask that of you. Yes, you will, because I'm the only one who can prove she tried to buy me off. Sarah's jaw was set. And I'm going to make sure the judge knows exactly what kind of person my mother is. A week before the hearing, Frank called with news. Travis tried to get the hearing date moved up. Emergency motion, claiming your deteriorating condition requires immediate intervention. Judge denied it. Why would he do that? Sarah asked. She was on speaker. Because he's panicking, Frank said. He knows we're building something solid, trying to rush before we're ready. A pause. Which means we're on the right track, but it also means he's desperate. Be careful. That night, the vehicle came back, pulled up on the road outside Dale's property, sat there with the engine running and lights pointed at the house. Dale stood at the window watching. Sarah next to him. Should I call someone? She asked. Who? Sheriff's office? They both knew that was pointless. After 30 minutes, the vehicle drove away. Sarah locked the doors anyway. 3 days before the hearing, Dale laid out his father's suit. Charcoal gray, worn for important occasions. Weddings, funerals, court dates. He checked the pockets. Found a note tucked in the jacket, written in his father's hand on the back of an old receipt. Wore this when I defended our deed in '73. Carpetbaggers tried to claim the creek was the boundary, not the survey line. They had fancy lawyers. I had measurements. Truth won then, will again. This land is your spine, stand straight. Dad Dale hadn't known his father had faced a similar fight. The same suit, the same land. A different decade, but the same battle. History didn't repeat, but it sure as hell rhymed. Sarah found him holding the note. What's that? He showed her. She read it twice. Grandpa fought for this land too. Looks like. Then we're not the first. Sarah folded the note carefully, handed it back. And we won't be the last. That's what it means, right? To keep land in a family. Every generation fights for it somehow. Dale put the note in his pocket. I reckon so. The night before the hearing, Ruth stopped by. Brought a pie nobody was hungry enough to eat. They sat on the porch, even though it was cold. Seemed right, somehow. Frank's ready, Ruth said. Evidence is solid. Your survey maps are perfect. Sarah's testimony will be powerful. We've got everything we need. And if it's not enough? Dale asked. Ruth looked at him. Really looked. Then you'll know you stood up. You'll know you didn't let them break you without a fight. Sometimes that's the victory, Dale. Just not breaking. They sat quiet for a while. The kind of quiet that feels comfortable, like they'd known each other long enough not to need words for everything. Dale, Ruth said finally, whatever happens tomorrow, you've already won something. You know that, right? What's that? You stood up. A lot of folks wouldn't have. They would have accepted it, gone quietly. But you stood up. Dale didn't know what to say to that. Ruth stood, touched his shoulder briefly. Get some sleep. Big day tomorrow. After she left, Dale sat on the porch alone. The stars were out, cold and clear. Same stars his father had looked at, his grandfather. 3 generations of carpenters looking up at the same Missouri sky. Morning came early. Dale put on his father's suit, pocketed the note, the survey maps. Sarah drove. Ruth followed in her car. They pulled into the courthouse parking lot at 8:30. Monica and Travis were already there, standing with their attorney, a man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd never lost a case in his life. James Kowalski. Dale had heard of him. The kind of lawyer you hired when you wanted to win and didn't care how. Travis saw Dale and looked away quick. Monica just stared. Her face was hard to read. Frank met them on the courthouse steps. Ready? Dale looked up at the building. Sandstone, built in 1890. 4 generations of justice. Or what passed for it. Ready as I'll ever be. They walked in together. The courtroom smelled like old wood and floor wax. High ceilings, windows that let in cold March light. Judge Holling's bench sat empty, waiting. Monica and Travis took seats on the left side. Their attorney, Kowalski, spread files across his table like he owned the place. Confident, easy, a man used to winning. Dale sat on the right with Frank, Sarah, and Ruth behind them. His hands wanted to shake. He kept them flat on the table. People filed in, more than Dale expected. Betty Henderson, Tom Peterson, Ray Hollis from the diner. Even some folks he didn't know. Word had spread. The bailiff stood. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Halling presiding. Judge Halling entered. 72, gray hair pulled back, eyes that had seen 4 decades of people lying in her courtroom. She settled into her chair, adjusted her glasses, and looked over the case file. Petition for emergency power of attorney, she said. Monica Carpenter versus Dale Carpenter. She looked at both sides. Mr. Kowalski, this is your petition. What's the emergency? Kowalski stood smooth. Your Honor, Mr. Dale Carpenter is experiencing cognitive decline that puts him and others at risk. We have medical documentation, witness testimony, and family concern. Mrs. Carpenter is seeking legal authority to ensure her husband receives proper care. Judge Holling's eyes shifted to Dale. Mr. Carpenter, do you understand these proceedings? Dale stood, kept his voice steady. Yes, ma'am. My wife wants to take my property by claiming I'm incompetent. I'm here to prove I'm not. The judge's eyebrow raised slightly. Direct answer. I appreciate that. And she looked back at Kowalski. Proceed with your case. Dr. Harrison took the stand first, looked nervous, kept adjusting his tie. Dr. Harrison, Kowalski said, you examined Mr. Carpenter on February 14th. What were your findings? I performed a standard cognitive assessment. Mr. Carpenter showed some concerning signs, difficulty with complex tasks, confusion about dates, some personality changes noted by his wife. And your recommendation? That he would benefit from supervised living, for his own safety. Kowalski nodded, like this proved everything. No further questions. Frank stood, casual, almost friendly. Dr. Harrison, how long have you known Travis Henneman? The doctor hesitated. We're acquaintances. You golf together every Thursday for the past 2 years. Is that accurate? Yes, but did Mr. Henneman refer Mrs. Carpenter to you? I don't recall. Your appointment records show she called your office the same day. She met with Mr. Henneman. That's quite a coincidence. Judge Halling leaned forward. Answer the question, doctor. He may have mentioned I was accepting new patients. Frank pulled out a paper. Your assessment of Mr. Carpenter was 30 minutes long, 1 visit. Is that sufficient to diagnose cognitive decline? For preliminary concerns, yes. Did you review his work history? 43 years as a licensed surveyor? Did you ask about his current projects? Medical assessment doesn't require, so you evaluated his cognitive function without considering his professional competence, his ability to perform complex mathematical calculations, his precision work. Frank let that hang. Nothing further. Dr. Harrison left the stand looking smaller. The county assessor came next, Tom Wickham, 50s, nervous sweat on his forehead. He testified about the property valuation, $400,000. Based on declining maintenance and owner's limited capacity for property management, Kowalski presented it as evidence of Dale's inability to care for the land. Frank's cross-examination was surgical. Mr. Wickham, when did you last golf with Travis Henneman? I don't see what. Please answer. Last Thursday. Frank pulled out photographs. These are from your property inspection, dated November 12th. Can you point to the deteriorating fence lines mentioned in your report? Wickham squinted at the photos. The fences were perfect. Well, it's a general impression. Show me one specific example of poor maintenance in these photographs. Silence. Mr. Wickham, isn't it true that Mr. Henneman has referred 3 other property assessments to you in the past 2 years? All undervalued. All involving elderly landowners? I don't keep track. The county records do. Frank held up more papers. 3 properties, all assessed below market value by you, all purchased by Mr. Henneman shortly after the owners were institutionalized. Would you like to explain that pattern? Judge Holling's expression went cold. I'd like to hear that explanation, too. Wickham had no answer. Monica took the stand in the afternoon, makeup perfect, tissue in hand, the worried wife. Mrs. Carpenter, Kowalski said gently, tell the court about your husband's decline. It started slowly. Her voice broke just right. Forgetting appointments, getting confused about what day it was. Last month, he left the stove on. I came home to smoke in the kitchen. She dabbed her eyes. I'm scared he'll hurt himself or burn the house down. I just want him safe. The tissue work was perfect. Dale had to admit that. Why seek emergency power of attorney? Kowalski asked. Because he won't accept help. He's become paranoid, aggressive. Last week, he accused me of... She stopped, looking ashamed. Terrible things, things that aren't true. I think his mind is playing tricks on him, gallery members murmured sympathetically. No further questions. Frank stood, didn't rush, let the sympathy fade first. Mrs. Carpenter, you testified your husband forgets appointments. Can you give a specific example? Monica blinked. Well, there have been several. One specific date and appointment he forgot. Well, I don't have the exact. You also mentioned he left the stove on. When exactly did that happen? Last month? What day? What time? What were you cooking? Monica's composure cracked slightly. I don't remember every detail, but you remember enough to have him institutionalized. Frank pulled out a phone. Mrs. Carpenter, do you recognize this number? Monica went pale. That's my phone. And this number? He showed her another. I don't know. It's Travis Henneman's. You texted him 247 times in the past 3 months. Would you like me to read some of those texts to the court? That's private. Your Honor, I'd like to submit those as evidence. Frank handed papers to the judge. Text messages discussing Phase 2, medical evaluations, power of attorney timelines, property assessments, messages about Mr. Henneman and Mrs. Carpenter's future together on the land they planned to take from her husband. The courtroom went dead silent. Monica's tissue fell to the floor. She didn't pick it up. Mrs. Carpenter, Frank said quietly, on February 28th, you texted Mr. Henneman, and I quote, he trusts me completely. This will be easy. Do you stand by that text? Monica couldn't answer. No further questions. Ruth took the stand next. Calm, professional, 40 years of county records backing every word. She presented the timeline. Travis's property acquisitions, the pattern of elderly victims, forged documents, backdated signatures, 5 cases in 3 years. This isn't negligence, Ruth said. It's systematic exploitation. Mr. Henneman targets isolated elderly landowners, befriends family members, creates incompetence narratives, then seizes property when victims are institutionalized. She presented files on each victim, names, properties, what happened to them. One died in a nursing home 6 months after losing his land. One committed suicide. Ruth's voice was steady, but her eyes were hard. I won't let it happen again. Kowalski tried to shake her on cross. Couldn't. 40 years of institutional knowledge was armor. The judge called a 15-minute recess. In the hallway, Monica and Travis stood apart. Her mascara was running. Travis wouldn't look at her. Their attorney was on his phone, looking worried. Frank pulled Dale aside. You're next. Just explain your survey work. Show her who you are. Dale nodded. Couldn't speak. His throat was too tight. Sarah squeezed his hand. You've got this, Dad. Ruth just nodded from across the hall. The bailiff called them back in. Mr. Carpenter, Judge Halling said. I'd like to hear from you directly. Dale stood, walked to the witness stand, got sworn in. This was it. Everything came down to the next few minutes. Frank began simple. Mr. Carpenter, please state your profession. Licensed land surveyor, 43 years. Can you explain what that requires? Dale looked at the judge. Precision, mathematics, understanding property law, surveying instruments, boundary markers, reading old deeds, finding iron pins set 50, 80, 100 years ago. He paused. Getting it right matters. People's property depends on it. Have you experienced any cognitive decline? No, ma'am. Dr. Ted Harrison suggested you have. How do you respond to that? He spent 30 minutes asking me trick questions. I've spent 43 years measuring land to the inch. Which one proves competence? A few people in the gallery nodded. Frank pulled out the survey maps. Tell the judge about your recent work. Last month, I surveyed my entire property, 200 acres. Brutal weather, but I located every boundary marker my father set in 1947. Dale's voice was steady now. Found them all, exactly where they should be, because the work was done right. Can you prove this? Dale pulled out his hand-drawn maps, his father's originals from 1947. These are my fresh surveys. These are my father's. Identical. Same measurements, same pin locations. To the inch. Frank handed them to the judge. She studied them carefully, put on her reading glasses, checked one against the other. Mr. Carpenter, she said finally, these are remarkably precise. Thank you, Your Honor. Precision is the job. And you did this work in February, in the snow. Yes, ma'am. My father taught me to work in all weather. Land doesn't care if it's cold. Judge Halling set down the maps. Can you recite your property boundaries from memory? The courtroom went quiet. Yes, ma'am. Please do. Dale closed his eyes for just a second, saw the land like it was laid out in front of him. Every marker, every angle, every measurement his father had taught him. Starting at the northwest corner, iron pin set 1947 by my father, Raymond Carpenter. 40 feet south of the large oak, 18 feet east of Wilkins Creek. South, 89 degrees, 23 minutes east, 20 section 40 feet to the northeast corner. Iron pin at the old fence intersection. He continued. Every boundary, every measurement, every landmark. 2 minutes of perfect detail, pulled from 40 years of walking that land. When he finished, the courtroom was dead silent. Judge Halling checked against the deed in front of her. The deed says 197.3 acres. Yes, ma'am. You just described exactly 197.3 acres. She looked at him over her glasses. To the foot. Yes, ma'am. She set down the deed. Dale could see it in her eyes. She'd made a decision. Kowalski stood for cross-examination. His confidence was gone, but he tried anyway. Carpenter, isn't it possible you memorized these boundaries specifically for today to make yourself look competent? I've known them since I was 8 years old. My father taught me. Your wife says you've been forgetful, paranoid, confused. My wife's been lying. Dale's voice stayed level. For 6 months, to steal my land. That's a serious accusation. It's the truth. You've seen the texts. You know what they planned. Kowalski shifted tactics. You're 63 years old. Surveying 200 acres in winter? Isn't that dangerous? Doesn't it show poor judgment? Shows I can still do my job. Shows my mind and body work fine. Shows I know my land. Or shows an old man desperately trying to prove something he can't. Objection, Frank said. Argumentative. Sustained. Judge Halling looked irritated. Kowalski tried one more angle. Mr. Carpenter, wouldn't a nice facility where you're cared for be easier than... Dale cut him off. I don't need care. I need my land. I need my dignity. I need people to stop lying about me. He looked directly at Monica for the first time since taking the stand. She wouldn't meet his eyes. 38 years, Dale said. I thought that meant something. The land you wanted to steal? My father cleared it with a mule and faith. Died on that land. I've protected it my whole life. I'll protect it now. Monica's face crumpled. Real tears this time. Not performance. Guilt, maybe, or just being caught. Dale turned back to the judge. I'm not incompetent. I'm not confused. I'm a man defending what's his, that's all. No further questions, Kowalski said quietly. Judge Halling called a recess. I need 15 minutes to review all evidence. The longest 15 minutes of Dale's life. He sat in the hallway with Frank, Sarah, and Ruth. Nobody talked. Nothing to say that hadn't been said. Monica and Travis stood at the far end of the hall. Not talking either. Travis kept checking his phone. Monica just stared at the floor. Finally, the bailiff called them back. Judge Halling looked at both tables. Her face gave nothing away. I've reviewed all testimony and evidence, she said. Mrs. Carpenter's petition for emergency power of attorney is denied. The gallery exhaled as one. Carpenter has demonstrated beyond reasonable doubt his mental and physical competence. The medical assessment appears compromised by personal relationships and was woefully insufficient. The property assessment is clearly fraudulent. She looked at Dr. Harrison in the back. I'm referring your conduct to the state medical board. The doctor went pale, left quickly. Mr. Wickham, the county prosecutor, will receive this file. The assessor was already gone. Judge Halling turned to Monica and Travis. I'm ordering a full investigation into potential fraud charges, elder abuse, conspiracy, forgery. Her voice went cold. You attempted to institutionalize a competent man to seize his property. That's criminal. She signed papers, slid them across. Mr. Carpenter, I'm issuing a restraining order protecting you and your property. You're free to go. The gavel came down. It was over. Outside, the March sun felt warm for the first time in months. People stopped to shake Dale's hand. Apologize. Say they'd known Monica was lying all along. Dale didn't believe that, but he nodded anyway. Travis rushed past them to his BMW. Wouldn't make eye contact. A reporter chased after him, asking questions he wouldn't answer. Monica stood alone on the courthouse steps. Her sister, who'd driven her, was already walking away. Nobody would look at her. She turned to Dale, opened her mouth like she might say something. Dale just shook his head, kept walking. Sarah linked her arm through his. Ruth did the same on the other side. Frank caught up, grinning. Drinks are on me. You earned it. I need to go home, Dale said. Got fence to mend. They laughed. He was serious. The truck was where they'd left it. Dale climbed in. Sarah drove. Ruth followed in her car. As they pulled away, Dale looked back once. Saw Monica still standing there, alone, small. Everything she'd schemed for gone. He felt nothing. No victory, no anger, just done. The land waited ahead. His father's land. His land now for certain. Some battles you win by standing your ground and refusing to be moved. This had been one of them. The newspaper hit Dale's porch Thursday morning. Front page headline, local developer under investigation for elder fraud. Travis's face in the photo. Looking cornered, Dale set it aside, didn't need to read it. He'd lived it. By the weekend, more news filtered through. Travis's developer license suspended. County prosecutor filing charges, fraud, forgery, conspiracy. 3 other victims had come forward after seeing the news. One was crying when she called Ruth, said she'd thought nobody would believe her. Dr. Harrison's practice was under review, patients leaving. State Medical Board opening an investigation. The assessor, Wickham, got fired. County Records Office cleaning house. Monica's lawyer had been disbarred for his part in it. Something about knowing the documents were forged. Dale heard it all secondhand. Didn't ask, didn't need to. Sunday at the diner, Sally brought him eggs without asking. Good to have you back, Dale. Good to be back. Ray Hollis and Pete Gardner came over. Awkward. We should have known better, Ray said. Should have trusted you. Dale sipped his coffee. It's done. Yeah, but it's done, Ray. They nodded. Sat down, started talking about the weather like they always had. Some things could go back to normal. Not everything, but some things. At church, Betty Henderson hugged him. We should have stood by you. And you're standing by me now. That seemed to help her some. Frank filed Dale's divorce petition Tuesday. Grounds: fraud, abandonment, elder abuse. Monica was living with a cousin, 2 counties over. Her sister wouldn't house her. Travis wouldn't return her calls. He'd lawyered up, distanced himself from her fast as he could. She had no allies left, no friends. The town that had believed her lies now knew the truth. Dale tried to feel something about it. Vindication, maybe, or satisfaction. He felt tired and ready for spring. Sarah started visiting every weekend. They'd walk the fence lines together. She was learning the property, taking photos, recording his stories about her grandfather. One Saturday morning in early April, she was quiet for a long time. Then, Dad, I'm pregnant. Dale stopped walking, looked at her. I wanted to tell you carefully, she said. I know things are complicated. With the divorce, with everything. Boy or girl? Don't know yet. Either way, Dale said, they'll need to know this land. When they're old enough, I'll teach them surveying, like my father taught me. Sarah's eyes filled up. Yeah? Yeah, she hugged him. Standing there in the middle of the back 40, mud on their boots, April sun warm on their shoulders. Family hadn't been broken, just bent, but bent things could be straightened. Ruth started coming by regular. Sunday dinners became a thing. She'd bring pie. They'd eat on the porch after, talk about nothing important, weather, town gossip, county records. One evening she said, casual-like, I was thinking about selling my place, moving somewhere warm. That right? But I like it here. She looked at him. Good people here. Dale nodded. Yeah, good people. They rocked in silence. Comfortable, nothing was rushed, nothing needed to be. They were 63 and 68, past the age of pretending or hurrying. But there was something there, quiet, steady, built on respect and shared battles. It was enough. Late April, Dale got a letter from the county prosecutor. Travis Henneman indicted on 8 counts. Trial set for fall. They wanted Dale to testify. 3 other victims had cases pending on the same evidence. Sarah asked, do you want to? You could just move on. Dale thought about the widow who'd called Ruth crying. Thought about the man who'd killed himself. Thought about the one who'd died in a nursing home 6 months after losing his farm. Other folks got hurt, he said. If testifying helps them, I'll do it. The garden went in that week, Dale and Sarah working side by side, turning soil, planting rows, tomatoes, beans, squash, same vegetables his father had planted, same earth. I used to hate this, Sarah said. Thought it was boring. And now? Now I get it. It's not about the vegetables, and so, what's it about? Doing it together, making something grow. She patted soil around a tomato plant. My kid's going to do this with you someday. I'd like that. They worked until dark, muscles sore in a good way, hands dirty, satisfied, tired. That evening, Dale sat on his porch, coffee in hand, same as the night the phone had buzzed, the night the selfie had arrived. But everything was different now. Sarah's car in the driveway, Ruth's pie dish on the table, the garden planted in straight rows, the land secured in a trust with Sarah as trustee, legal, protected, safe. He pulled out his phone, scrolled to photos. The selfie was still there. He'd looked at it occasionally over the past months, trying to understand how 38 years had come to this. Travis's smirk, Monica's casual betrayal. Dale looked at it one last time, then deleted it. Some things weren't worth remembering. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah. Love you, Dad. See you Saturday. He typed back, love you too. The evening birds started up. Spring peepers down by the creek. The land settling into night the way it had for 100 years. Tomorrow there'd be fence to check, garden to water, life to live. But tonight there was just this. Peace. Earned through standing firm. And that was everything. April came full, the kind of spring that makes you forget winter ever happened. Dale stood on his porch at dawn, coffee steaming in his hand. Same position as that January night when the phone had buzzed, when his world had tilted. But different now. Everything different. The birds were loud, robins and cardinals and wrens all claiming territory. Spring music, life insisting on itself. Sarah's car pulled up just after 6. She was showing now. Not much, but enough to notice. She climbed out with 2 thermoses and a smile. Ready, Dad? Always. They walked the fence lines together. Same route Dale had walked every morning for 40 years. But now, with company, with purpose beyond habit, Sarah had a notebook, writing down everything he said. Property markers, boundary descriptions, the stories behind landmarks, her grandfather's surveying techniques. When I was little, she said, I thought this was just you being obsessive. Maybe it was. No. She touched a fence post, solid, well-maintained. It was love, taking care of something so it'll be there for who comes next. They finished the circuit. Back at the house, Ruth's car was pulling in. Sunday breakfast tradition, 3 months running now. Ruth had eggs and bacon. Dale made coffee. Sarah set the table. Easy routines built from shared time and trust. Frank called yesterday, Ruth said, passing the salt. Travis's trial date is confirmed, September. And the other victims? 2 are filing civil suits. One's too scared. But she might, after she sees yours go through. Ruth looked at Dale. You're helping people just by standing up? Dale nodded. Didn't know what to say to that. After breakfast, Sarah pulled out an ultrasound photo, new one from Friday. They can tell now, she said. If you want to know. Do you want to tell me? Boy, she was grinning. You're getting a grandson. Dale looked at the grainy image. Couldn't make out much, but it was there. Next generation, continuity. He'll need to learn this land, Dale said. He will. We both will. Sarah folded the photo carefully. I've been thinking. Maybe I'll move back. Once he's born, raise him here, where there's space, where things grow. You sure? I'm sure. Ruth stood to clear dishes. Dale helped. They worked in comfortable silence, the kind that comes from not needing to fill every moment with words. On the porch after, Ruth said she had to go. Church ladies' meeting. She lingered, though. Tuesday still good for dinner? She asked. Yeah. I'll make pot roast. I'll bring the wine. Simple, easy, nothing rushed or complicated. Just 2 people who'd been through some things and come out steady on the other side. After Ruth left, Dale walked out to his property alone. Something he needed to do. Northwest corner. The iron pin his father had set in 1947. Dale knelt, brushed away the spring grass growing around it. The metal was warm from the sun. I kept it, Dad, he said to the air, to the memory, to the land itself. Almost lost it, but I kept it. He could almost hear his father's voice. Good. That's what matters. Not the keeping it easy, the keeping it at all. The barn workshop next. His father's survey transit sat clean on the bench, maintained, ready. Someday Sarah would learn to use it. Someday Sarah's boy would too. The land stretched out in every direction, every acre known, every boundary marked true, every promise kept. Evening came soft. Dale sat on his porch with a grandson on the way and a friend who'd become something more, and a daughter who'd come home. The stars came out, same stars his father had seen, his grandfather, his great-grandfather who'd first claimed this land. 4 generations of carpenters looking up at the same Missouri sky. Tomorrow, the fence would need mending. Garden would need watering. There'd be work. There'd always be work. But work was living. And living was choosing to stand firm when the ground wanted to shift beneath you. Dale finished his coffee, stood, looked out at his land one more time. Some things were worth fighting for. Some fights were worth winning. This had been both. There's something to be said about a man who stands his ground. Not because standing's easy. Hell, it's usually harder than walking away. Harder than accepting what people tell you about yourself. Harder than giving up what you've built. But some things are worth the hardness. Dale Carpenter learned that the way his father had learned it, the way his grandfather had learned it, through winter cold and spring mud, in the simple act of refusing to be moved. Land isn't just property, it's promise. It's every hour of work your father put in, every fence post your grandfather set, every seed planted with faith that something would grow. It's continuity. It's saying to the future, someone was here, and they cared enough to keep it going. Dale's father had written it plain. This land is your spine. Stand straight. And Dale had stood. When his wife betrayed him, when doctors lied about him, when the whole town turned its back, when the easiest thing would have been to sell cheap and vanish, he stood because the land was his spine, because precision mattered, because some promises span generations. Now spring mornings find him on that same porch, coffee in hand, daughter visiting, grandson coming, friend, who might be more sitting beside him on Sunday evenings. The land stretches out, secure, marked true, Kept safe for who comes next. That's the real victory, not the courthouse, not the public vindication. The victory is standing on your own porch on a spring morning and knowing you didn't break. Knowing what you protected will outlast you. Knowing that when your grandson asks about the land, you'll have the answer your father had. We keep it safe. We mark it true. We pass it on. Some battles are won through patience and precision. Some dignity is earned through refusal to surrender it. Dale Carpenter understood that now. The fence line called. His fence, his land, his morning. And that was everything.